Solo travel isn't for everyone. I definitely think it's one of those things that you have to try for yourself in order to find out if you like it or not. I've spoken about countless advantages to solo travel on this channel, but I think it's time that we discuss some of the disadvantages to solo travel. However, if you're new to solo travel, although we're going to be talking about some of the disadvantages, I am going to be also talking about some of the things that you can do to combat some of these disadvantages so you're ready for your trip. The first disadvantage to solo traveling is loneliness. It can happen to the best of us. I've had some really memorable solo travel trips, but I've also had some really incredible trips with people. And it's not necessarily because of where we went, but more because of who I was with. So I definitely think that sometimes people can make an experience. I am an extrovert myself and I love people. I love being around people. I love connecting with people. And sometimes I don't even need to talk to them. But the fact that I am, for example, if I'm sitting in a cafe, the fact that I'm surrounded by people and I know that they're there makes me feel comforted. And I say all of this just to say that I think that your level of loneliness can also depend on a lot of different things. For example, the length of your trip and even individual differences. For example, if you are an introvert or if you're an extrovert like me, where you're at in your life, if you're traveling for a special occasion, all of these things can factor into if you feel loneliness and also how intense that loneliness might feel while you're on your trip. And also loneliness can be expressed in so many different ways. So for me, some of the ways that I like to combat loneliness when I'm solo traveling is, for one, depending on the trip, I will try to book social accommodation. So you could stay at a hostel or you could also stay at a shared Airbnb. Just because you're staying at a hostel though, does not mean that you have to be in a room with 5 other people in a 6-bed room. You can do that. But there are a lot of hostels out there now that have individual rooms. Some of them have rooms with just 2 beds, so you're sharing with 1 other person instead of 5 other people. It just depends on the hostel. But what's great about some of these accommodations is that there's other travelers there that are usually coming in and out, and they're looking for other people to connect with, to go out and hang out and see the city and all of those things. If you're not down for a hostel or an Airbnb, don't worry, I totally understand. Another thing that I like to do is reach out to family and friends. If you're in a group chat, you can keep the group chat updated with photos and videos. I'm a huge fan of WhatsApp. My friends and I like to send audio messages back and forth the whole day as if it's a podcast. So you can do that with your friends and send them audio messages, keep them updated on your trip. You can also schedule a call with someone, maybe a family member or a friend, someone that you confide in, and you can schedule a call with them and maybe do it in the evening time so that when you're out exploring the city, it gives you something to look forward to at the end of your day, or something that you know that you're going to be connecting with someone else, and that might also help you feel a little less lonely. And I also want to say too that just because you are traveling alone does not mean that you have to spend the entire trip by yourself. You can join group events. I know I am a big fan of the website meetup.com. There are different meetups that you can join, and they're usually based around specific hobbies. So when you're in a new city, you can check out meetup.com. I find, and this is just my own opinion, but I find that Europe uses Meetup a lot more than the US does. So if you're on a European trip, you can check meetup.com and see if there is a meetup that you can go to. There's a lot of programs and organizations out there now. You can sign up for a trip with other solo travelers. Like I know Flashpack, for example. This is great because the trip is pretty much planned for you, and all you really need to do is show up, and you're there with other solo travelers as well. I also encourage you to join Facebook groups. There are so many Facebook groups out there. I'm in a few of them that are just for solo travelers or for travel in general. And I have seen so many women meet up with each other in different countries, different cities around the world, and they've made friends that way. They've made travel buddies that way. And it's also a really great way to get a little insight on certain cities because it's global. There's so many people from all around the world in these groups. And of course, like always, you want to trust your gut, trust your instincts, proceed with caution, but these are just a couple of things that you can do, that you can look into, that might help you with loneliness. Another disadvantage to traveling alone is judgment. I think every solo traveler can attest to some form of judgment, even if it's small. While I truly believe that most people, we are so wrapped up in our own lives, our own problems, our own concerns, that sometimes we don't even notice other people. I also think that when you're doing something that's outside of the norm, you can get get a little judgment for it. And thankfully, solo travel has become really popular over the years, especially among women. Every now and then you might get the occasional burst of judgment thrown your way. I think I've shared this story before, but I do remember one time I did a solo trip to Porto, Portugal. I stayed in an Airbnb with a really sweet older woman, and she had a lot to say about me traveling alone and asked me all sorts of really invasive questions about where my boyfriend was and why I was traveling alone and why I wasn't traveling with a man. And obviously she was of a different generation. I tried to brush it off as best I could, but it certainly didn't feel good at the time. And for me personally, I feel like I've experienced a lot of judgment around eating alone. Some of this might just be in my head and not necessarily what was actually happening. But I do think that sometimes when you're traveling alone, you're a solo traveler, you do sometimes, not everyone feels this way, but I do think that sometimes you can have that dreaded feeling of walking into a restaurant and having to say one please. It just, ugh. So this one's a little bit harder to tackle, and it's easier said than done, but I think for me, I've really had to do the inner work to be okay with myself and where I'm at and my life choices. Sorry, there's no easy fix for this one. There's no trick that I can think of. Maybe you guys have some tricks up your sleeve, and again, you can put them in the comments below. I heard a quote once, and I have no idea who said it, but I thought it was so good. And it said, "Your opinion of me is none of my business." And I love that. Go on your trip, enjoy yourself. And if someone is judging you, at some point you have to shrug it off and just let it be what it is. If you are loving this video so far and you're finding it helpful, please feel free to like it. And also, if you're looking for more solo travel tips and inspiration, subscribe to this channel. Third disadvantage to traveling alone is not having people to depend on. And what I mean by no one to depend on is that obviously when you're traveling alone, it's you. Everything is on you. And while that can be so fun and so liberating, at the same time, it can also be really frustrating because, for example, I hate having to bring my luggage into the bathroom stall with me. I hate it. I think it's absolutely disgusting. But when I'm solo traveling, I don't have a choice. I have to do it. And so those are the kind of things that I'm talking about when I'm talking about no one to depend on. Another thing is saving a spot in line or getting sick on your trip. You know what I mean? Those things are the things that I think can sometimes be frustrating when you're traveling alone. So to combat these things, you kind of have to create a system for yourself and work around it. It's probably wise to make sure that you have used the bathroom and you have everything that you need before you proceed with waiting in line and finding a place to sit, because then if you have to use the bathroom and you're waiting in line, that can be an issue. Or if you are eating your food and you need to use the bathroom, but you haven't finished your food yet, you know, those kinds of things. So you kind of have to be a little strategic with it. I will say I'm always pleasantly surprised at how accommodating and how helpful people can be. I've definitely had moments in time where I've been waiting in line and I really need to use the bathroom or I need to do something else, and I've asked someone, "Hey, would you mind holding my spot for me while I just quickly run to the bathroom?" You know, that's fine, but it's definitely completely different to having a friend do it. In the age of social media that we are living in, this can be a tough one because when you are traveling alone, you don't have anyone to take your picture. Because let's face it, we all love those cute travel pictures that we can post on Instagram or send to our friends or whatever, or just to have for ourselves to remember the trip. And imagine you're traveling and you see the most beautiful photo opportunity and there's no one there to take your picture and make it happen. I have been there so many times. When you're solo traveling, getting pictures of yourself can be a lot more difficult. But here are some things that you can do to maybe get some beautiful travel pictures while you're out. You can hire a local photographer. I have not personally done this myself, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. But you can have a little photo session with a local photographer, and you can also take selfies. I know that they're selfies, but there are a lot of tools out there now that can help you get a better selfie that may not exactly look like a selfie, but it looks like just a really nice travel shot. There are selfie sticks, there's like tools with little adhesive things where you just stick onto a wall and you can put your phone in that and take a quick picture like that. It's a lot easier to do now than it has been in the past. You can also use a self timer on your phone or your camera, set it up somewhere and get a really nice shot. I know that this can sometimes be difficult depending on the city that you're traveling in, because you don't want to set up a tripod or a camera somewhere and then have someone come along and just steal it and start running, because that can happen. So I know that sometimes for me, I'll get up really early in the morning, I try to be as safe as I can, obviously, but I will take photos then, and I'll kind of prop my camera somewhere and take a nice little shot because I feel like I'm less likely to have someone run along and steal my camera in the process. Another thing you can do is ask a stranger, and this one is kind of hit or miss because sometimes a stranger can get a really good shot and they just have a really good eye, they know how to frame things, and then sometimes people are just snapping because they just want to get it over with, and then you look at the picture and it's not good. Like I said, you'd be really surprised at how kind some people can really be. In some ways, traveling alone can be cheaper because you're taking care of you and yourself, and that's it. And this can especially be true if you are used to traveling with people that may not have the same budget as you. However, in some instances, traveling alone can be more expensive. Some hotels, cruises, and resorts, most of them, charge by the room and not by the person. They go ahead and make the assumption that the room is going to be occupied by 2 people. So their prices are based on double occupancy. And so if you're solo traveling, you end up being charged a single supplement fee because in the hotel's eyes, they are losing out on some of the money of having an additional person there. I don't know if I explained it very well. Someone in the comments can probably explain it a lot better than I did. Sometimes this can be hard to avoid. But the good news is that there are a lot of hotels out there and cruise lines and resorts that do not charge a single supplement fee. And they have rooms specifically for solo travelers. I know, for example, some of those pod hotels, those dormitory-like hotels that are designed for one person do not have those fees. And I know some cruise lines are even adding that to their amenities. Like I know, for example, I think Virgin Voyage cruises and also Norwegian both have rooms specifically for solo travelers. If you're looking for more information on solo travel, definitely check out my solo travel playlist, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.